Hey everyone, it's Lisa with Are You My Cousin? And we're here today to do a Facebook Live where we can talk about genealogy research, DNA research. I have Mary Eberle from DNA Hunters with me. Hey Mary, it's good to have you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, glad to have you. Really excited you guys are here. I know it's been a while since I've done a regular YouTube, Facebook Live, so I'm glad to be here with you. Hey, Danny, good to see you from Ohio. Yeah, really glad to be back today. If you are just joining us, if you are just meeting me, we haven't met before, and you have just kind of found the Are You My Cousin YouTube channel or Facebook Live, I just want to welcome you here. This YouTube channel and the Facebook page, I'm all about trying to help you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, but not be overwhelmed in the process. And sometimes we can find DNA to be overwhelming. I know I can, which is why I brought Mary here, because Mary is the DNA genealogist extraordinaire. So we're glad to have her. If as you're coming in, feel free to let us know where you're watching from today. I'm actually in my office in North Carolina, where we have kind of a cloudy, warmish day. But I know some other parts of the country are actually warmer than I am today. So it's unusual, right, Mary?
That's right.
As you're coming in and just kind of letting us know, just to kind of give you a couple of heads up of what's happening here, you will probably have noticed if you have been watching the YouTube channel that I am putting more and more content over on the YouTube channel. I'm trying to post twice a week. I think I can keep that up, Mary. I do have things coming out, and it would be really wonderful, guys, if you feel so inclined to hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. This helps YouTube let you know when new videos are posted, and it also tells YouTube that genealogy information is important to people out there, and they'll serve that up to you a little bit more. So it helps the algorithm, basically. So I do appreciate that. Let's see what else is going on. That's really, I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes. You'll be seeing a couple emails coming out in the coming weeks about some specials that are going on. But we are seeing, as I said, mostly I'm working on YouTube videos. And just so you know, there's a blog post. I put them in blog post form too. So you can take the content or digest the content in either format that you prefer. So, hey, Allison from Michigan. And we have Vicki. Hey, yes, it has been a while. A while for you. It's been a while for us too, Vicki. Hey, Eric from New York. So we got Susan from rainy Portland, Oregon. Hey, Annette. Good to see you from Maryland. So we've got folks from all over. I think. Oh, actually, I wanted to give a special hello because we have a shout out for some folks. We're international today. Hey, Maggie from Niagara Falls. We've got Louise from Ontario and Francesca from Florence, Italy. So welcome. So glad that you guys could join us from so far away, because I know it's later a bit. All right. Well, you know what? We are here to talk about DNA, right, Mary? We're going to be talking about clustering tools. And I have to be honest, Mary, I don't know a ton about that, which is, again, why we wanted to have you here. So I would love it if you could just kind of take things over here and talk to us about those, what they are, and how we can use them in our research.
Great. Thanks so much, Lisa. And thanks everybody for being here today. I did put together a relatively short PowerPoint presentation, so I will begin sharing my screen. And let's see, here we go. Screen share.
Yeah, Mary and I actually had to practice this ahead of time because it had been so long since we did this.
Okay.
You ready, Mary?
See that? Yep.
I got it. Here
Okay,
it is.
Great. So this is about using clustering tools to interpret your DNA matches. And these tools are really interesting. They let us separate our DNA matches into manageable groups. And by manageable, I mean, we've got these groups that you're able to look at, and if you know something about somebody within the group, then you know that those people who are along with them in a specific group are related. They might even be related through a common ancestor, but maybe it's one ancestor further back in time or one ancestor closer in time, but at least you know that you've got these groups, and I'll show you some pictures of them. And you're also able to figure out how your matches are related. So these are tools that cluster DNA matches. It's all based on shared matches, which is a function available at any of the DNA testing companies like Ancestry, 23andMe, Family Tree DNA, MyHeritage, and GEDmatch, which of course doesn't test DNA, but they still have tools that let you see who matches, which of your matches match other matches. But in this instance with these clustering tools, it's more stringent. So it's not just, are they matching some DNA, whatever that cutoff might be at the DNA testing company. Instead, with these tools, you're able to pick out how much overlap there needs to be. And that's true for at least some of the tools, not all, but I'll explain all the 3 different tools that are available. And with these tools, you're able to analyze your DNA test results from any of the DNA testing companies, but it does matter where you've tested, because some of the tools work only in certain places. So let me go through the 3 types of clustering tools. And the first one is the Leeds method, and I'll explain each of these in more detail, but this was developed by Dana Leeds. She is a genealogist, and she came up with this methodology when she was trying to help an adoptee figure out who their birth parents were. And the second one is Genetic Affairs, and that is a third-party website. You can do work on it for free, but there's also a paid version of it that's $10 a month, and then you're able to have more profiles and basically work on more people's DNA results. And that Genetic Affairs is limited to working with your results from 23andMe and Family Tree DNA. So historically, you could use it on your Ancestry results, but Ancestry sent Genetic Affairs a cease and desist letter demanding that they stop pulling data from their website. So unfortunately, that's no longer available. But you could still analyze your Ancestry results through the Leeds method. The third place, or the third tool that we have, is at MyHeritage, and it's included within their website if you do DNA testing with them. And they had a collaboration with the developer of Genetic Affairs, and that means that within the MyHeritage DNA website, or the MyHeritage site, when you're looking at your DNA results, you can do this clustering. So those are the 3 different tools that are available. For a little more detail on each of these, let's start out with the Leeds method. And again, that's Dana Leeds, and her website is danaleeds.com. And she came up with this color clustering method for easily visualizing matches. This is an example where you could look at your matches. And she's looking at matches, I believe you would start out at about 250 centimorgans. So that's about a second cousin, maybe a third cousin. And you're color coding the matches. So in this example, I've got blue as the first match. And then you're looking at the shared matches, and you're putting a blue color on any of their shared matches. So in this instance, you've got number 4, number 10, and number 13 as being shared matches of number 1. And then you're moving on to the next highest match. So in this case, it would be the yellow match number 2. we're making that person yellow along with their shared matches. And then you do that for the top 4 people. So we've got the green column and the red column. And by looking at this set of matches, and again, it's about 250 or fewer centimorgans, we're going to end up with these 4 groups. And the groups are going to represent each of our grandparents. So that assumes that people from all lines in your family tree have tested, because if your parent and therefore grandparents are from a place where nobody has tested, it's going to be much harder to fill this in. But let's just assume that everybody's got matches who descend from each of their 4 grandparents. And doing this gives you a visualization of how these matches are related to you. So this is a very straightforward and originally a hand-done method. In the meantime, some of this has been automated. I don't have time today to explain that, but I believe DNAGEDCOM.com is where some of this has been automated. So let's move on to the second tool, and that is Genetic Affairs. It's that third-party website where you're going to register, and then you're going to, it's called adding a website. And what that means is just that you can pick a DNA account from either 23andMe or Family Tree DNA. So you're adding that, and you actually tell them your login and password at those sites. So for example, if you're going to do 23andMe and it's your own results, you would say, oh, here's how I log into that site. And we aren't generally concerned with sharing that information because the person that developed this website is part of the DNA genealogy community. And then you're going to select a profile. If you just have that original one that you have, the free one typically, then you just say, okay, I want to look at my profile. You're next going to pick the parameters that it's looking at. So remember back to Dana's method, and I said she's starting out with matches that are about 200 or 250. Well, on this website, Genetic Affairs, you have a window to say, here's the upper limit of the centimorgans, and here's the lower limit. I think it's good to start out with the defaults that they put in place, which are 250 down to 50. And then you say, yes, please run this profile. Genetic Affairs then sends you an email once they have done the analysis. And that email contains a file, a zipped file, so that's compressed, and you just click on it and it opens up. You'll get both an HTML file, which can be used on the computer, on the internet, or a CSV file, which can be used in Excel or a similar program. So I'm always using the HTML file. I don't do much of this manually in an Excel spreadsheet. Here we have my Genetic Affairs report back when they let me access my ancestry results. So you can see I've got a matrix. So the people on the left are the same as the people on the top. And I've cropped that so that you can't see their names. And it's comparing, person 1 to person 1. And when it's the same person, they're putting a dark square in the grid. And then it's moving on and telling you person 1 versus person 2, do they match? And it's creating these clusters. So for example, here we have this orange cluster, which is the largest. And I know some of those people within that cluster. And I know that they are on my mom's side of the family, which is the label I put on the Psalm Peterson label, which is her father and her mother's surnames. Moving down, we've got the green cluster, and I noticed there were some Eberles in that cluster. And then we get to these smaller and smaller clusters. And these represent my matches who are related through great-grandparents or in some instances, great-great, or even third-great grandparents. And it's not that, the tool magically says, here, Mary, here's how they're related to you. Instead, it's me knowing people within those clusters. In this, I guess there's one exception here, which is in this cluster, one of my matches has the same surname as one of my ancestors, this Bauman surname. And I have double checked to make sure that is indeed how we are related. But I just wanted to let you know that it's not like magically also saying this is how you're related, but instead it's clustering your matches and into these manageable groups. And if you know some of the people within the groups, then it'll be much easier to figure out how the other members are related to you. Can you see these, the black lines that I have drawn down here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I did this with a ruler because I thought it would be a lot easier to see the division between one group and another. And what also I wanted to point out are these gray boxes. And these happen when somebody from a specific cluster, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in here, we've got these gray clusters in the group number 6, and they're related to the green people above. So not only do they form this 3x3 cluster of people who are shared matches with the required overlap, but some people within those 3 go and match the people up here who are closer cousins.
Mary, can I ask a question?
Oh, yep.
So,
yeah.
The little gray boxes down there, does that represent if you're related to somebody on 2 sides of the family? You know how sometimes you can be related from a couple different directions, or is that, did I take that wrong?
Right. Well, that is a really good question. Because, for sure we see these gray boxes when they match 2 clusters from one side of our family. But it's also going to show you when people are related to both your mom's side and your dad's side.
Okay.
And it's really hard to see here. My note says that this group, these gray people, I said they're distant Eberle, but one shared match is also Psalm, meaning my mom's side. So they're on my dad's side, but they're also matching my mom's side, and potentially the handwriting writing here covered up covered up that gray box. And then I said another shared match is Saint Nazian, and to me that's short. Well, it's shorthand for the Eberles lived in Saint Nazian. So I'm trying to keep track and put down what I know. But I actually have another example where it's that matching on both sides of your family.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more clear cut. So that is this one. This is Genetic Affairs. It's mine, and it's my 23andMe results, taking 250 to 50 centimorgans. So that's the default. And in doing this, I only got 4 groups. And it was just this week I realized that, can you see my cursor?
Yes, sorry, I had muted it. Yeah.
Okay, so
We can see it.
so up here is the big maternal grouping. Then I've got a smaller maternal with some overlap. And this is going back, I can't remember if this is my second great grandparents or my first, but it's going back further in time. So some of them are matching the bigger maternals. And then here is that paternal, the biggest paternal group I've got at 23andMe. And what I just noticed this week was that there are 2 sisters. So they are my second cousins. I've always thought, I know the shared ancestors. It's the Eberle Ryland couple. It's my great grandparents. So therefore, we're second cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked and I realized, oh my gosh, they actually match some guy up here in my mom's, on my maternal cousins.
Oh.
And this is, I've seen a few instances like this where people who are paternal cousins are also maternal cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, my immigrant ancestors came into Wisconsin, where I live today, but they came into the same county. And what I think happened is I've got a second cousins who are marrying, a second cousin on one side of the family marries a second or a third cousin on the other side of the family. Nobody saw this until this analysis was run. I just don't know my second cousins, especially on my dad's side of the family. There are only a couple of people I know, but I thought, well, this is really interesting that there is some crossover. Some people that I match are matching me on both sides of my family.
Right. I would definitely see that in my side. And I think a lot of us, because I descend from Southern farmers and who had, fairly close-knit communities. And so we would, I see it in the paper trail. I'm sure it'll bear out in the DNA trail as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And if you have endogamy where your marriages are within a closed community, so for example, a religion or an island or just some other geographic constraint, then where people can be related multiple ways, then this is going to have a lot more gray.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a tool that you can use to see, is there endogamy in my family?
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't call this endogamy. This is just, a few cousins marrying a few cousins, because endogamy is that closed community, and it's where people intermarry over hundreds of years.
Right.
So this is the default from Genetic Affairs with that 250 to 50 CMs or centimorgans. I also look to see what would it look like if I lowered that lower number. And what happens is I get a lot more clusters and just kind of finer and finer groupings. And by bringing in those people who share 35 to 49 centimorgans, I'm going to be bringing in those more distant cousins into this analysis, and it's going to bring in those extra groups. So this is what happens. And one question that I had in the very beginning was, well, why am I starting out with 250 centimorgans? Why wouldn't I use my aunt, with whom I share like 1,700 centimorgans? And you can do that, but she is going to be a shared match of so many people, so many of my other matches, that it doesn't help. So that's my explanation. You can always play around with it though on Genetic Affairs.
Well, that makes sense, because if you're matching on that many, I mean, they're closer in, and so if you're using this to kind of get a little further out, it helps to lower that number.
Right. So let's just have a couple more. There is that MyHeritage tool where they've collaborated with the Genetic Affairs people. And inside the MyHeritage website, it's under DNA tools. And then you can see in the center, there's the auto clusters. And then you tell it which profile to generate one for. And same thing as with Genetic Affairs, you're going to get an email. And then when you click on the HTML file, and actually it's kind of fun because initially they're just all these boxes, and it sorts it out before your very eyes. So I'm not savvy enough to show you that in a little movie, but ultimately they come to rest, and you get these clusters. So just taking a look at this, stepping back, I think, wow, it's a lot more clusters than anything I've shown you thus far. And I've got some people sharing on both my mom's side and my dad's side right here, because I know this is a paternal and this is a maternal. I also wanted to show you, I've got maternal unknown Norwegian, maternal known Norwegians, maternal English, and those are known people. But one way of keeping track of everything is the fact that in both this tool and the Genetic Affairs tool, they show you your notes. And your notes are from the website where you tested. So here, this is from MyHeritage. Under my notes, I put down for this one person whose tree is 70 people. I said this is a psalm, and that his father, or his paternal grandfather, is Roman psalm. And then for this next person, I said the most recent common ancestor is Nicholas Psalm and Maria Wagner. So having my notes, they're just beneath these clusters that I showed you. That definitely helps you, assuming you've put notes into your matches.
Yeah, that's a big help to have it kind of all right there, centralized.
And to be able to click on the tree and then open the tree for that person, in case it's somebody that you don't know. And in this case, this is my clues where I was saying those maternal unknown Norwegian. I know that I have a Norwegian great-grandfather on my mom's side. So I know any cluster like the one I'm showing here on the right, where these surnames, along with their first names, tells me these are Norwegian people, and they're pretty distant. It's also saying they're between 27 and 30 centimorgans. So maybe they're third cousins, but maybe they're fourth, fifth, or sixth cousins. But I can, when I'm here, I can then say, okay, I think that was this cluster. Whereas the ones I know about are here. And there's definitely some overlap between the two groups. And we do see endogamy in Norway, so that's not surprising. But, it's just a really nice way to, when you're looking at a match and you're trying to figure out how in the world are they related to me, if you can use a clustering tool like this, it really helps to figure out who they are. And in general, you're starting out with those known matches. If you're working on adoption, you might just say, this is match number 1, and have to separate them out without knowing exactly how they're related, or you might not know at all. But if you've got an unknown mother and an unknown father, but it's this clustering ability that really helps. And we've got those 3 different tools that I mentioned, and they have different options in terms of, for example, how much DNA you want these people to share. And it's just a really interesting, fun tool or tools to use to understand your matches.
Definitely. So I put links to those websites you mentioned in the chat boxes, and I'm also so I was pulling up MyHeritage site to add that in there too, and I'll get that there as well. So that was really actually helpful. I've played around a little bit with clusters. Get our face. There we go. But I've never really been able, it's not something I've spent as much time with. So that actually really helps a lot. Definitely the websites have come further in automating this stuff and making it easier to look at the data and start to get understand it, quite frankly. And their tutorials are good. That's the other thing. I was noticing as Mary was talking about this, so I was looking at some of these that, MyHeritage and Genetic Affairs and the Leeds method, they all have really good tutorials on their sites. So if you get there and you're not sure, you can walk through their tutorials, and that really, that helps so much to be able to do. In fact, that's kind of what I do when I get to a new site. I check out the tutorials there. So yeah. Oh, Judy, I'm glad this really helped. Alana says she now understands why you understand so much more about your paternal half sibling than your maternal half sibling. The paternal side was extremely endogamous. Yes, really interesting. I hadn't even thought about that when you were talking about the clusterings, then those populations that might have endogamy. Yeah. I think I was thinking more along the lines of just like, as I had mentioned, a lot of times I find, sisters marrying brothers, and then, or where you have, a sister marrying a man and then she dies. And so the next sister marries him, and, so you get those kind of odd relationships in there with some of the kids. So yeah.
Right. Or 2 sisters marrying 2 brothers.
Yep.
And I have that. So my maternal orange box is huge. And I think that's why is, like everyone's related to me, not only through, well, they're doubly related to me. And it also matters, like I was saying, like I think on the Eberle side, not that many people have tested We have some cousins at St. Nazian thing.
Mm-hmm.
Was actually a Catholic utopian society back in the 1800s where people followed a Catholic priest to St. Nazian. They founded the town, and they, it's fascinating, but they're like my distant cousins. So a lot of them have tested though. So they're more like second, third, fourth cousins. But when that pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that part of the family that like we didn't hang out with.
Right.
But you get that kind of bubble of a bunch of Eberles over there having families and families and families. On my dad's side of the family, it was much smaller. So there's not as much popping up. So anyway.
Yeah, I see similar things, yeah, with myself and with others as well, definitely. Some families just did more together, I guess. So anyway, well, thank you so much, Mary, for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
This has
thanks,
been
Lisa.
so
Thanks,
helpful. And
everybody.
now I want to go play with pretty colored charts and everything. So guys, if you, I did put Mary's contact information in the comments section. If you're watching on YouTube, it should be in the description below. If it's not, I'll check it. I'll get it in there for you guys. And I would love it again, guys, if you really enjoy genealogy videos over here on YouTube, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. It does help the YouTube algorithm help you find me and help me find you on YouTube. So thank you so much. We will watch your emails for future YouTube lives coming up, and we'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.